You trust your strategy until it loses once, not twice, not after a long losing streak. Just once, one trade goes against you, and suddenly everything you believed in starts to feel uncertain. You don't say it out loud, but you feel it. That quiet doubt in the back of your mind. Maybe this doesn't actually work. And from that moment, you're no longer following your strategy with confidence. You're testing it, questioning it, waiting for it to prove itself again before you trust it. And that is where everything starts to break. At the beginning of your journey, you were different. You had structure. You took the time to learn, to study, to build something that made sense to you. You created rules, clear entries, clear exits, defined risk. And for the first time, you felt like you had control, like you weren't just guessing anymore. You told yourself, this is it. This is the system I'll follow. And for a while, you actually did. You executed trades with confidence, without hesitation, not because you knew the outcome, but because you trusted the process. And in that phase, you were closer to consistency than you probably realized. Then it happens, your first loss. And on the surface, it doesn't look like a big deal. It's within your risk. It's part of the plan. You knew it could happen. But knowing something logically and experiencing it emotionally are two very different things. Because when the loss becomes real, you feel it, not just in your account, but in your confidence. And even if you don't fully admit it, something inside you shifts. A small crack in what used to feel solid. After that loss, you start looking back at the trade, replaying every detail, trying to figure out what went wrong. But instead of analyzing objectively, you start searching for flaws. Maybe the entry wasn't perfect. Maybe the timing was off. Maybe I should have waited. And slowly, you begin to question the system itself, not because it failed, but because it didn't win. And in your mind, those two things start to feel the same, which is dangerous, because now a normal outcome is being treated like a problem. The next time your strategy gives you a setup, something feels different. You hesitate, not because the setup changed, but because you did. You look at the chart longer. You analyze more. You wait for extra confirmation. Then more confirmation. Then even more. Until eventually, the opportunity disappears. And this time, the trade works. Perfectly. Exactly how your system predicted. But you weren't in it. And that moment creates even more damage than the loss. Now you're dealing with something new. Regret. Not from losing, but from not acting. You start thinking, if I had just taken it, that was my setup. I knew it. And now your mind is split. Because on one side, you don't trust your strategy, but on the other, you don't trust yourself either. And that internal conflict starts to grow. Because now, every decision feels heavier, more uncertain, more emotional. So you try to fix it. You don't want to feel this way again. So you adjust your approach, just slightly. You tell yourself, I'll be more selective. I'll filter out bad trades. I'll only take the best setups. And it sounds smart, it sounds logical, but in reality, you're no longer following a system. You're creating exceptions. And those exceptions slowly replace your rules. At this point, your strategy isn't clear anymore. It's flexible, undefined, inconsistent. Sometimes you follow it exactly. Sometimes you adjust it mid-trade. Sometimes you ignore it completely. And because of that, your results lose meaning. Because now, you don't know what's working and what isn't. Every outcome becomes confusing because it's no longer tied to a consistent process. So naturally, you assume the problem is the strategy. It must be flawed. It must need improvement. So you start looking for something better, something more reliable, something that doesn't lose as often. But what you don't realize is this: you never gave your current system a real chance. You didn't follow it consistently enough to gather real data. You didn't let it play out over time. So you're not replacing a bad system, you're abandoning an unfinished one. Because a strategy is not judged by a few trades, it's judged over a series, a large sample size, dozens, hundreds of executions. That's where the edge appears, not in single outcomes, but in patterns over time. And if you interrupt that process by constantly changing things, you never reach that point. You stay stuck in the early phase forever. So you start over. New strategy, new indicators, new approach. And once again, it feels right. It feels better because it hasn't lost yet. So your confidence comes back. You execute cleanly until it loses. And then the doubt returns, the hesitation, the adjustments, the inconsistency. And just like that, you're back in the same cycle. Professional traders don't go through this cycle, not because their strategies are perfect, but because their expectations are realistic. They don't expect to win every trade. They don't expect immediate validation. They understand that losses are part of the system, not a signal to abandon it. They think in probabilities, in long-term outcomes, in consistency over time. So when a trade loses, they don't react emotionally. They don't question everything. They simply move on and execute the next setup. Because they know their edge only exists if they allow it to play out. You need to redefine what trust really means. Because right now, you only trust your system when it works. And that's not trust. That's reaction. Real trust is different. It's continuing to follow your rules, even after losses, even when doubt is present, even when your emotions are telling you to stop. Because trust is not built on results. It's built on consistency, on repetition, on showing up, and doing the same thing over and over again without needing immediate proof. You need to redefine what trust really means. Because right now, you only trust your system when it works. And that's not trust. That's reaction. Real trust is different. It's continuing to follow your rules, even after losses, even when doubt is present, even when your emotions are telling you to stop. Because trust is not built on results. It's built on consistency, on repetition, on showing up, and doing the same thing over and over again, without needing immediate proof. The truth is simple, but difficult to accept. It's not your strategy that's failing. It's your ability to stay consistent with it. You don't need something new. You don't need something better. You need to take what you already have and commit to it fully, without constant adjustments, without hesitation, without letting short-term outcomes change your behavior. Because until you do that, no strategy will ever work for you. That's where discipline becomes everything. Not motivation, not excitement. Discipline. The ability to repeat the same process with the same level of focus, regardless of results, even when it feels boring, even when it feels uncertain. Because real progress in trading is not built on excitement. It's built on consistency, on doing the same thing correctly, over and over again. At some point, you stop searching for better strategies and start becoming a better trader. You shift your focus from outcomes to execution, from results to behavior. And that's when things start to stabilize, because now your performance is not random. It's structured, it's repeatable, and most importantly, it's measurable. Every time you follow your system, you strengthen your edge. You build confidence, not from winning, but from consistency. And every time you break it, you create confusion. You weaken your process. You lose clarity. And over time, those small decisions compound into either progress or stagnation, into either discipline or chaos. So next time your strategy gives you a setup and you feel that hesitation, that doubt, that urge to second guess, pause. Don't react immediately. Just observe the moment and ask yourself, am I following my system or reacting to my last result? Because that one moment, that decision, is what defines your future performance. Because that one question can change everything. It can stop you from jumping between strategies. It can help you finally build consistency. And it can give your system the time it actually needs to work. Most traders never reach that point, not because they lack knowledge, but because they never stay consistent long enough to see results. If this made you see your trading differently, if you recognize these patterns in yourself, then this is where things start to change. So, subscribe. Because everything on this channel is designed to help you stay consistent, think clearly, and finally build a system that actually works over time.